Saya meyakini bahwa ASEAN masih penting dan relevan bagi rakyat, bagi kawasan, dan bagi dunia. Bahwa ASEAN akan terus berkontribusi bagi perdamaian dan stabilitas di Indo-Pasifik. Bahwa ASEAN akan terus dapat menjaga pertumbuhan ekonomi dan ASEAN matters epicentrum of growth.
Let's discuss about Southeast Asia and ASEAN. Southeast Asia is known as a region of prosperity. But it is now facing a different set of unpredictable challenges, political, economic, and beyond, to keep its projected stability and prosperity in place. Still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, the region now faces challenges, including on how to deal with the Myanmar crisis, whose destabilizing trait will increasingly be felt, potential confrontations over at the South China Sea, and maritime and environmental issues threatening countries' growth and welfare. Its very own regional grouping, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, have proven to be the only grouping of its kind in Asia, serving as the go-to regional multilateral institutions, regulating exchanges, develop regional norms, and institutionalizing cooperation among other powers. It has boosted the profile and diplomatic heft of Southeast Asia's small and medium-sized states amidst a region filled with major powers that compete for deep economic and strategic involvement in the region. At the regional stage, Indonesia has been the driving force between political and security community building in ASEAN, particularly since 2003, while it strengthens bilateral partnerships with major powers. It has also rallied ASEAN support for the regional comprehensive economic partnership. At the global stage, Indonesia has been engaged in many global issues, particularly since its inclusion in the G20. It is an economic and political powerhouse in Southeast Asia. In 2022, served as president of G20, and in 2023 again holds the chairmanship of ASEAN. What are some of the current challenges in Southeast Asia? Southeast Asia continues to be preoccupied with COVID-19 pandemic and economic recovery. The pandemic has reversed many of the hard-won economic and development gains in the region. Since February 2021, a primary challenge for ASEAN has been developing a response to the coup in Myanmar. The Myanmar issue is an important issue to Southeast Asia due to its transnational scale and risk of spillover to regional stability. The political crisis inside Myanmar, born out of the 2021 Myanmar military coup, the nationwide protests and opposition against it, and the escalation of violence following brutal crackdown adopted by the Myanmar military to repress protesters and political oppositions, has since transformed into multiple layers of crisis.
As well as the need for humanitarian assistance in the region.
Different positions on how to treat the issue and on how much Southeast Asia should care about the political outcome of the Myanmar crisis defines the different approaches of Southeast Asian countries. Another great challenge is surrounding disputed claims over islands in the South China Sea, which have continued without a binding measure in place to mitigate confrontations at sea. During the 2022 ASEAN summits and related summits in Cambodia, where the Chinese government was also present, ASEAN members raised the need for a peaceful settlement of dispute over the waters. There are other issues increasing in pertinence. Maritime issues for maritime Southeast Asian nations, including issues of marine resource sustainability, impacts of climate change, and non-traditional maritime security issues impacting marine resources and seaborne trade, and environmental issues around the Mekong region for mainland Southeast Asia, symbolize the new set of elements newly recognized but with fast approaching consequences towards life in the sub-region. What about the regional economic outlook? Following years of excitement to the projected growth of Southeast Asian markets, as led by countries like Vietnam and Indonesia, the major disruption and shock from the halt in mobilization during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, Southeast Asia's economy is now back with a positive foundation. Most of the countries in the region has done relatively well post-COVID-19, keeping a regional growth projection of 5.2% and 5.3% for 2022 and 2023, according to the Asian Development Bank, and 5% for 2022, according to the World Bank. This has happened when other countries, especially major industrial ones, suffer from much slower growth due to the direct geopolitical shocks to supply chain and financial flows of the war in Ukraine, the uncertainties that follow, and the damages remaining from the COVID-19 pandemic.
We all agree that this year there will be slight pressure for the growth because of the global uncertainty, and we are still in the recovery period of the pandemic. But given that there is a pressure for growth from this global uncertainty, I believe there is still potential and positive growth for ASEAN region this year. And this is coming from more from the recovery itself, the recovery from the pandemic. So people have starting to be used to live in the situation in post-pandemic, and this helped the recovery for the economy in the region, in the ASEAN region.
Some of Southeast Asian economies are benefiting from the increase in the price of global commodity prices that are also their main export goods, such as oil, coal, palm oil and nickel, rebound in tourism, etc. But noting the interconnected nature of economies, looming challenge of these external shocks from the region still remains.
I'm on the optimistic side, and I believe, especially for ASEAN region, there is still a lot of potential for growth, continuing the trajectory of growth before the pandemic. And as we all know, ASEAN has this big project on ASEAN connectivity, and we are connecting not only within ASEAN, but also ASEAN with East Asia region. So there will be a lot of growth potential coming from this ASEAN connectivity project. And yeah, that can give a significant boost for the growth, plus domestic consumption of the ASEAN countries itself, as I mentioned earlier.
While the impacts they may cause may vary, rising poverty and inflation, as well as supply and demand shocks, look set to be felt across the region, as extension from many dynamics, including the tightening monetary policies in the United States, the slow growth in China, and the shocks from the Ukraine war. Countries who rely too much on short-term capital flow is projected to suffer most. Indonesia is assuming the ASEAN chairmanship for 2023. What are the expectations? For Indonesia, regional security and stability are seen as preconditions for national development and prosperity. Thus, the interest to create a secure and stable region is parallel at both the regional and national levels. In this regard, Indonesia's regional role generally translates to ASEAN.
It's like what is happening in Myanmar. There is absolutely no mechanism that we can find in the ASEAN Charter to resort to in order to be able to deal with this.
To complement the ASEAN processes, Indonesia also faces the challenge in increasing its diplomatic presence, profile, and ties across the region to leverage its crisis-solving diplomacy. Furthermore, Indonesia may also have the concern in the risk of being entangled to a regional issue whose solution is unforeseeable in the short term, or even involving a variety of unpredictable dynamics, such as involving great power competition. Nevertheless, Indonesia's leadership in Southeast Asia is needed. Indonesia is the largest maritime nation, the largest democracy, the largest population, and the largest economy in Southeast Asia. With its size comes also both exposure and interest to the situations surrounding its direct region.
First, on the digitalizations, it's simply a fact of life that at this point in time, we are living in digital economy era. Digitalization or digital economy has been accelerated because of the pandemic. And we are now in the point of no return, and digital is all around us. So what is needed to be done by ASEAN is to adjust to this. And that means more adjustment in the regulatory framework and regulations. So there could be some significant work in the regulatory reform, and this has to be done or start to be done because digital economy is already all around us, and that will, especially for taking care some issues that still still in the debates these days surrounding this digital economy, such as, for example, cybersecurity, as well as the data localizations and all of other cross-border transactions in digital economy. We need regulatory framework to adjust to all of this changing because of the digital economy.
Indonesia is assuming the ASEAN Chairmanship 2023, which adopts the theme ASEAN Matters, Epicentrum of Growth. Indonesia's chairmanship provides a golden opportunity for Indonesia to make another mark, following its past successes, having been chair in 1976, 2003, and 2011. The handover of the ASEAN chairmanship from Cambodia to Indonesia was done in November 2022 and was greeted enthusiastically by many parties. And the moment can be seen as a continuation of Indonesia's role and leadership as it ends its tenure as president of the Group of 20.
One of the priority agenda is to strengthen ASEAN capacities and mechanisms. I think this is something that ASEAN, that Indonesia chairmanship can push, because again, the charter itself still has many loopholes. And one of the big loopholes is in terms of how ASEAN can deal with its own internal problem. And this is what we have not found. And I think there has been a lot of expectations for Indonesian chairmanship to push for this, for ASEAN to be resilient, to be able to deal with its own problem.
Indonesia's lead is expected to bring stability and prosperity in the region on various issues, including climate change, cybersecurity, digital economy, and disruption of the regional supply chain, while minimizing the various impacts of important issues surrounding politics and security in the region, so that ASEAN can become a more effective organization. In line with its responsibility, Indonesia will also have to safeguard its national interests, as well as come up with new solutions to overcome challenges and crucial issues that have become a concern, whether it is within the region or globally.